"You're obsolete, Lauren," he said, his voice slicing through the glass-walled boardroom like a guillotine. "But don't worry, we'll make this quick." Lauren Carter, 46, stood frozen, her fingers tightening around a chipped ceramic mug that read, "Risk less. Win more," in faded letters. The words, spat by a hedge fund executive with a smile sharp enough to cut steel, echoed in her mind like a death knell. The boardroom, perched on the 42nd floor of Apex Capital's Seattle headquarters, gleamed with cold precision steel desks, LED lights pulsing like a heartbeat, and floor-to-ceiling windows framing a gray Puget Sound. It felt less like an office and more like a surgical theater, with Lauren as the patient, prepped for dissection. She'd been summoned here at 8 a.m. Her Outlook calendar pinged with a cryptic invite, strategic alignment briefing. No agenda, no context, just a room number and a knot in her stomach. Now facing Ethan Walsh, a 30-something Apex manager with a Rolex glinting on his wrist and a smirk that screamed Ivy League arrogance. She realized this wasn't a briefing. It was an execution. Lauren's eyes flicked to the mug, a relic from Orion Investments, the boutique firm she'd helped build over 20 years. Back then, Orion was a scrappy team of dreamers, huddled in a Belltown loft, fueled by burnt coffee and a mission to manage wealth with integrity. Lauren wasn't just an analyst. She was the architect of their risk management system, the one who'd saved them when the 2018 market crash hit like a tsunami. Her models, coded on a laptop that overheated during late-night sprints, had kept Orion afloat while bigger firms sank. She was their compass, their spine, the one who turned chaos into clarity. Now, Orion was gone, swallowed whole by Apex Capital in a hostile takeover that closed last month. The news had come via a press release, not a conversation, with phrases like disruptive wealth creation and portfolio optimization splashed across Bloomberg. Lauren's office, once alive with whiteboards and laughter, had been gutted, replaced by Apex's open plan collaboration hub. The space was a shrine to excess ergonomic chairs that cost more than her rent, a touchscreen espresso machine humming in the break room, and posters screaming "One Apex." One vision over Orion's old mission statement: trust through truth. Her colleagues, the ones who'd shared beers after client wins and memes during market dips, now moved like ghosts. They avoided her gaze, their loyalty bought by Apex's promises of stock options and corner offices. Even Michael Reed, Orion's founder, who'd once called her the heart of this place, stood silent at the last town hall, his eyes fixed on the floor as Apex's CEO droned about synergistic efficiencies. Ethan leaned back in his chair, his smirk widening. "Your risk models are cute, Lauren, but they're dinosaurs. Our AI algorithms handle that now. Faster, smarter. No offense, but you're not exactly keeping up." Lauren's jaw clenched, her molars grinding. Cute. She'd built systems that saved millions while Ethan was still acing his SATs. Her voice, when it came, was low, deliberate. Those dinosaurs kept Orion alive when your algorithms would have crashed and burned. Ethan chuckled, unfazed, his fingers drumming on a tablet that probably cost more than her car. "Look, we're streamlining legacy roles. You'll get the details soon. Just stay flexible, okay?" He flashed a grin, the kind that sold bad ideas to worse people, and strolled out, leaving Lauren alone with the hum of the AC and a pit in her gut. Back at her desk, a glass slab in a sea of identical stations. She set the mug down, its chip catching the light. Her monitor pinged a new email from Apex HR. Subject line: Apex Integration Next Steps. The words blurred as she read the first line. As we harmonize our talent deployment, she didn't need to finish. She'd seen enough mergers to know what came next: severance packages, non-disparagement clauses, and a quiet erasure of everything she'd built. Her gaze drifted to a photo pinned to her cubicle wall. Her old Orion team, arms around each other after a 2019 client pitch, grinning like they'd conquered the world. Next to it, a stress ball shaped like a stock chart, a gag gift from a junior analyst she'd mentored. The ball felt heavy in her hand, like it carried the weight of those years. Outside, Seattle's skyline loomed through the rain, the Space Needle a faint ghost in the fog. Lauren exhaled, slow and steady. They thought they could erase her. They had no idea who they were dealing with. Lauren Carter sat at her glass desk, the glow of her monitor casting shadows across the photo of her old Orion team. The Apex Capital office buzzed around her, a hive of hushed voices and Slack notifications. But it felt like a foreign country. The air was too clean, the lights too bright, the ergonomic chairs too eager to cradle her into submission. Her chipped mug, "Risk less, win more," sat defiantly among the sterile pens and notepads Apex had issued, each branded with their sleek logo, a silver arrow that looked more like a missile. The email from HR still lingered on her screen. Its words, "harmonize talent deployment," streamlining, burning into her retinas like a corporate curse. She'd tried to focus on work, but Ethan Walsh had other plans. He'd sauntered over an hour ago, his Rolex catching the LED glow, and dumped a stack of PowerPoint decks on her desk. "Need these reformatted by EOD," he said, his tone casual, like he was asking for coffee. "New branding guidelines." "You'll figure it out." Lauren's fingers had twitched, itching to fling the decks back at his smug face. Reformatting slides, she'd built risk models that saved Orion from collapse. Mentored analysts who now ran hedge funds, and once convinced a client to stay during a market freefall with nothing but a whiteboard and grit. Now she was reduced to tweaking fonts for a kid who thought leverage was a personality trait. She swallowed the rage, her jaw tight, and nodded. Ethan smirked and walked off, already tapping his Apple Watch, probably scheduling his next thought leadership tweet. The humiliation wasn't accidental. Apex was squeezing her out, one menial task at a time. Yesterday, her access to Orion's old risk management system had been revoked, the login page replaced with a cold error. "User not authorized." No explanation. No heads up, just a digital door slammed in her face. When she'd emailed IT, the response was a canned "contact your team lead." Ethan, of course, hadn't replied. Her mind drifted to the past, to Orion's Belltown loft, where the walls smelled of burnt coffee and ambition. Back then, she and Michael Reed, the founder, would stay up until 3 a.m., sketching models on napkins, debating volatility curves over pizza crusts. Michael had trusted her, called her the firm's compass when she caught a flaw in a 2016 trade that could have tanked them. "You see what others miss," he'd said, his grin wide, handing her a beer. That Lauren felt like a ghost now, buried under Apex's glass and chrome. The present snapped back as a colleague. Jen hurried past, avoiding eye contact. Jen, who'd once baked brownies for Lauren's birthday, now acted like she was contagious. The rest of the Orion team was the same, heads down, voices low, their loyalty traded for Apex's stock options. Lauren's stomach churned, not with fear but with something sharper, like betrayal laced with grief. She overheard Ethan's voice from a nearby huddle room, the glass walls doing little to muffle his arrogance. "Yeah, legacy roles are a drag," he said, laughing. "We're streamlining. Claire's got the list. Claire Donovan, Apex's HR chief, was there too." Her voice clipped, It's surgical, no blowback. Lauren's blood ran cold. Surgical. List, her name was on it, no question. She'd seen this playbook before. Mergers always ended with the old guard gutted. Their contributions erased like typos. A memory flashed 2019. Orion's holiday party. Michael on a table. Toasting the team. "We're not just a firm, we're a family," he'd shouted, sloshing his wine. Lauren had laughed, skeptical but warm, believing in the bond. Now, Michael was a shadow. At last week's town hall, he'd stood off stage, shoulders hunched, while Apex's CEO, Victor Langston, preached about synergistic efficiencies. Michael hadn't looked at her, not once. His eyes glued to the floor like a man awaiting sentencing. Her phone buzzed, snapping her back. A calendar invite. Role evaluation. 4B West. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. No agenda, no sender name. Just a room she'd never heard of. Her pulse quickened, a drumbeat of dread. 4B. West wasn't on the floor plan, she knew. Probably some converted closet Apex used for private consultations. She hovered over the decline button, instinct screaming it was a trap. But her finger froze. Declining wasn't an option. They'd made that clear. Lauren leaned back, the chair creaking under her weight. Her gaze fell to her desk, to the photo of her team, their smiles frozen in time. Next to it, the stress ball shaped like a stock chart, a gift from a kid she'd mentored. Now at Goldman Sachs. She squeezed it, the foam giving way, and felt a spark ignite in her chest, not defeat. Not yet, but a stubborn refusal to vanish. Outside, Seattle's rain battered the windows, the Space Needle a faint silhouette in the fog. Apex thought they could break her, rewrite her story. They didn't know she'd been writing her own for decades. The air in 4B West was Arctic, the kind of cold that seeped into your bones and made you question your choices. Lauren Carter sat in a lone chair across from a steel table. Her chipped mug, risk less, win more, left behind on her desk like a soldier abandoning a post. The room, a windowless box tucked deep in Apex Capital's Seattle headquarters, felt like a confession booth for sins she hadn't committed. Claire Donovan, Apex's HR chief, perched on one side, her smile as practiced as a flight attendant's. Next to her was Randall Holt, a VP with a gray suit and a grayer expression. His hands folded over a manila folder like it held state secrets. Lauren Carter Randall asked, as if he didn't know. His voice was flat, like he was reading a script he hadn't rehearsed. She nodded, sitting without invitation, her posture rigid. "That's me," Claire leaned forward, her smile tightening. "We've been conducting a talent optimization review, and, well, your role has been identified as redundant." The words landed like a slap, sharp and deliberate. It's not personal. Apex is about efficiency, forward momentum. Lauren's chest tightened, but her face stayed stone. Redundant. She'd built Orion's risk systems from scratch, saved them from ruin, while Claire was probably still picking out power suits. "Redundant," she repeated, her voice low, cutting. "Did anyone from my team, my actual team, sign off on this?" Randall shifted, his tie suddenly too tight. The decision was holistic, made at the executive level. He slid the folder across the table, its edge catching the light. "This outlines your severance, 2 weeks' pay, prorated vacation, COBRA options. There's a non-disparagement clause standard. Sign within 5 days. Lauren stared at the folder, untouched, her pulse a slow drum. "You didn't even read my file, did you?" Silence. Claire's smile flickered, a glitch in her programming. Randall cleared his throat, but no words came. That was answer enough. I built the systems you're profiting from, Lauren said, her voice steady, each word a blade. I onboarded your clients, wrote the models you call efficiencies, and you're firing me with a form letter. Claire jumped in, her tone syrupy. We value your legacy, Lauren, truly. But Apex is building the future. The word future hit like a spitball. Lauren stood, her chair scraping the floor. You don't get to rewrite my legacy. She walked out, leaving the folder behind, its pages as irrelevant as their promises. Back at her desk, the office felt like a graveyard. Colleagues peeked over monitors, their eyes darting away when she looked. Jen, who'd once cried on Lauren's shoulder after a bad review, stared at her keyboard like it held the meaning of life. Lauren packed slowly photo of the Orion team, stress ball shaped like a stock chart, a USB drive with old models. Ethan Walsh popped by, protein shake in hand. Oh, you transitioning to a new pod, he asked, oblivious. She walked past him, silent, her box of relics clutched tight. At her Capitol Hill apartment, rain lashed the windows, Seattle's gray blanket wrapping the city. Lauren sat at her kitchen table, a bottle of bourbon untouched beside a laptop open to a job board. Senior analyst must thrive in chaos, wear multiple hats. The words mocked her. She'd worn every hat, juggled fire, bled for Orion. Now she was scrolling her own obituary. She stood, restless, and dug through a cabinet of adult clutter bills, tax returns, a birthday card from her mom with glitter that still stuck to her fingers. Her hand brushed something heavy, out of place. A leather-bound report, embossed with Orion's logo, Systemic Risk Assessment, Apex Capital Exposure, 2017. Her breath caught. She'd written it. A warning about Apex's over-leveraged bets. A market crash waiting to happen. Michael Reed had buried it, too scared to rock the boat. His note, scrawled on the cover, hit her like a jolt if they ever come for us. This is your shield. Lauren's hands steadied. The bourbon forgotten. The report wasn't just data, it was dynamite. Apex's due diligence team had missed it. Too busy chasing synergy to check the fine print. Her eyes narrowed, a spark igniting. They thought they'd erased her. But she'd just found the match to burn their house down. Lauren Carter stepped into the cramped office above a Fremont bookstore, the air thick with the scent of old paper and fresh ink. Rain drummed against the windows, Seattle's endless percussion, as she clutched the leather-bound report, Systemic Risk Assessment, Apex Capital Exposure, like a grenade with the pin half pulled. The office belonged to Rachel Kim, a lawyer with a reputation for carving up corporate giants like Holiday Turkey. No chrome desks or LED lights here. Just stacks of legal texts, a battered desk, and a half-empty can of Red Bull that looked like it had seen too many late nights. Rachel, in a black blazer and jeans, stood to shake Lauren's hand, her grip firm, her eyes sharp. "Heard you've got a bomb," she said, nodding at the report. "Let's see it." Lauren set the leather folio on the desk, its weight thumping against the wood. "Apex fired me without cause. This proves they're sitting on a disaster they ignored." Her voice was steady, but her heart raced, a spark of defiance flaring brighter with every word. Rachel flipped open the report, her fingers moving like a surgeon's. Pages of charts, projections, and Lauren's own warnings from 2017 stared back Apex's reckless bets on volatile derivatives, a house of cards waiting for a breeze. Rachel's eyes widened, a low whistle escaping her lips. "This isn't a shield. Lauren, it's a guillotine." She leaned back, grinning like a fox in a henhouse. They missed this in due diligence. Their board's going to choke when they see it. Lauren exhaled, the knot in her chest loosening. What's our move? Rachel tapped a pen against the desk. Calculating. This report could spark shareholder lawsuits, SEC probes, maybe worse. Apex's stock would tank faster than a bad IPO. We hit them hard, demand your vested equity, plus damages for wrongful termination. 15 million, clean. She paused, her grin sharpening. And we make it clear, pay up, or this goes public. Lauren's mind flashed to her Capitol Hill apartment, the job boards mocking her, the bourbon she hadn't touched. 15 million wasn't just money, it was justice, a rewrite of Apex's smug narrative. They'll fight it, she said, more statement than question. Oh, they'll squirm, Rachel replied, already scribbling notes, but they've got no leverage. This report's a landmine, and they're dancing on it. Lauren's thoughts shifted to Priya Sharma, an Orion analyst who'd quit during the takeover, fed up with Apex's lies. They'd met for coffee last week. Priya's voice low as she hinted at Apex's cooked books offshore accounts. Inflated earnings. Lauren pulled out her phone, texting Priya. Need your help. Apex is about to bleed. Priya's reply was instant. I'm in. Got data. They'll hate. Rachel's eyes lit up when Lauren shared the plan. A whistleblower. Oh, this just got spicy. Her data plus your report. We're not just suing, we're burying them. They drafted a letter, surgical and cold, addressed to Apex's board, CEO Victor Langston, and Chief Legal Officer. It laid out the numbers $15 million based on Lauren's equity and the report's leverage demanding payment within 14 days or face a lawsuit for breach of contract and gross negligence. Every word was a blade, sharpened by Rachel's legal Kevlar and Priya's insider dirt. Lauren stood at the UPS store, the clerk stamping certified mail forms with a dull thud. 7 envelopes, each a missile aimed at Apex's ivory towers. The rain outside fell harder, streaking the windows like tears. She didn't need tracking numbers, she knew exactly where these were headed. Back home. She poured a finger of bourbon into her chipped mug. The words, risk less. Win more, staring back. The fuse was lit, and Apex was about to learn what happens when you underestimate a woman with nothing left to lose. Lauren Carter sat on her Capitol Hill couch, the leather-bound report on the coffee table like a loaded gun. Rain hammered Seattle's streets outside, the city's pulse matching the tension coiling in her chest. Her phone glowed with a new email from Apex Capital's legal team. Subject line, immediate, cease and desist. The words screamed desperation, but Lauren's lips curled into a faint smile. They'd opened her letter, read the $15 million demand, and now their empire was scrambling. The email, from a firm called Dresden, Halberstam, and Lyle, was 9 pages of legal venom. They accused her of stealing proprietary data, breaching confidentiality, and bold and capped potential fraudulent misconduct. The final paragraph hissed. Proceeding with your baseless claims will result in countersuits for reputational harm and fiduciary breach. Lauren's breath hitched, a flicker of doubt creeping in. Could they twist this? Paint her as the villain? She shoved the thought aside, her grip tightening on the phone. They were bluffing. She'd seen enough corporate poker to know a weak hand. Her phone buzzed again. This time, a voicemail from Victor Langston, Apex's CEO. His voice oozed charm, like a car salesman closing a deal. Lauren, let's keep this friendly. I'm offering $200,000 full release. No fuss. Call me. We'll sort this out. She laughed, sharp and involuntary. That's not an offer. Victor. She muttered to the empty room. It's a joke. She didn't call back. Let him sweat. But Apex didn't stop at charm. By noon, her inbox was flooded messages from old Orion colleagues, their tones cautious, nervous. Hey, Lauren, you okay? Apex's legal team called, asking if you ever mishandled client data. Another, they wanted to know if you were erratic. I said no, but heads up. Her stomach twisted. They were digging, clawing for dirt to bury her. Jen, who'd once borrowed Lauren's umbrella during a storm, texted. They asked if you took files home. Told them nothing. Be careful. Lauren's jaw clenched, her molars grinding. Careful. She was done playing nice. Priya Sharma called that evening, her voice low, urgent. Lauren, I got something. Apex is hiding losses, big ones. They're cooking the books to prop up their stock before a new funding round. Priya's data, pulled from her time at Orion, showed offshore accounts and fudged earnings, a scandal that could torch Apex's credibility. Lauren's pulse quickened, a spark flaring. Send it to Rachel, she said. We're not just fighting now, we're exposing them. The next morning, Apex upped the ante. A press release hit financial blogs. Its headline, A Knife Apex Capital Terminates Analyst for Ethical Lapses. The article didn't name her, but the details 20-year veteran risk management left no doubt. They painted her as unstable, a liability cut loose for the firm's integrity. Lauren stared at the screen, her coffee going cold in her chipped mug. The smear stung. A public gut punch. But it also clarified things. They weren't just scared, they were desperate. She met Rachel Kim at a Fremont diner. The report and Priya's data spread across the table like battle plans. Rachel's eyes gleamed, her fork stabbing a pancake with glee. This is gold, Lauren. Their smear amateur hour. Their books, a federal case waiting to happen. She leaned forward, voice low. We escalate. Threatened to leak the report, and Priya's data to a journalist say, the Wall Street Journal, unless they pay the full $15 million. Lauren nodded, her fear morphing into resolve. They think they can bully me into silence. They're about to learn I don't break. Rachel drafted a new letter, sharper, colder, naming the journalist and the consequences shareholder lawsuits, SEC probes, a stock crash that would make 2008 look like a hiccup. Lauren mailed it herself, the certified stamp a quiet thunderclap, back home. She stood by her window, rain streaking the glass like veins. The smear article still burned in her mind, but Priya's data and Rachel's plan were stronger. Apex had tried charm, threats, now lies. She wasn't just a fired analyst anymore. She was a storm, and their house of cards was about to fall. Lauren Carter sat in a Seattle conference room, the air thick with tension and the faint scent of overpriced cologne. Across the table, Apex Capital's legal team, 3 suits from Dresden, Halberstam, and Lyall shuffled papers, their faces tight with the kind of strain that comes from knowing you're losing. Rachel Kim, Lauren's lawyer, leaned back in her chair, her black blazer sharp against the room's beige blandness, a legal pad covered in precise notes resting before her. Outside, Seattle's rain painted the windows in relentless streaks, a gray curtain for the showdown unfolding. Rachel had filed the federal lawsuit 2 days ago, alleging breach of contract, wrongful termination, and defamation. The 2017 Risk Report, Systemic Risk Assessment, Apex Capital Exposure, was the centerpiece. Its pages of warnings about Apex's reckless bets, now evidence in black and white. Priya Sharma's data, exposing Apex's cooked books and offshore accounts, was the knockout punch, filed as supplemental proof. The complaint demanded $15 million Lauren's vested equity plus damages and Randall Holt's termination for negligence. The filing hit Apex like a lightning bolt, their stock dipping 3% as financial blogs sniffed a scandal. Now, in mediation, Victor Langston, Apex's CEO, sat at the table's head, his charm replaced by a scowl. "This is extortion," he snapped, jabbing a finger at Lauren. "You're leveraging a dusty report to bleed us dry." Lauren met his gaze, unflinching, her voice cold. "You fired me without cause, smeared my name, and ignored a report that could have saved your firm. Call it what you want. Victor, I call it consequences." Rachel slid a copy of the lawsuit across the table, her tone surgical. "The report proves Apex's negligence. Priya's data shows fraud. You pay $15 million. Fire Randall, or we go to trial." The Wall Street Journal's waiting for my call. The threat landed like a grenade, the lawyers flinching. A public trial would gut Apex's stock, spark SEC probes, and turn their boardroom into a slaughterhouse. Victor leaned forward, his voice low, oily. $5 million. Take it. Lauren, you're not equipped for this fight." His eyes flicked to the lawyers, expecting backup. They stayed silent, their pens frozen. Lauren laughed, short and sharp. $5 million. That's pocket change for a firm hiding billions offshore. Try again. Her calm was a weapon, honed by weeks of Apex's lies and smears. She wasn't the woman who'd packed her desk in silence anymore. She was a force, and they were learning it the hard way. Rachel tapped her pad, her grin feral. "Your due diligence missed the report. Your HR botched the termination. Your PR team's smear campaign defamation provable. You're not negotiating from strength. You're begging." She pushed Priya's data forward, timestamps and account numbers glaring. "This goes public. Your stock's toast. Shareholders will sue you into oblivion." The lead lawyer, a man with a tie that screamed trust fund, cleared his throat. "We dispute the report's relevance, and Ms. Sharma's data lacks context." His voice wavered, betraying the bluff. "Dispute it in court," Rachel shot back. "The SEC's already sniffing. You want their auditors in your books." The room went still, Victor's scowl deepening. He knew the math a trial was a death sentence. Lauren leaned forward, her eyes locked on Victor. "You thought I'd vanish. Another redundant legacy. But I built Orion's systems, and I'm tearing yours down." Her words were a blade, cutting through his ego. The mediation stretched. Apex's team huddling in whispers. Rachel's evidence emails, timestamps. The untouched report was ironclad. Financial blogs were already buzzing. Apex's stock sliding another point. Victor's jaw twitched, his empire crumbling in real time. Lauren sat back, her chipped mug a distant memory, replaced by a certainty they weren't just losing, they were hers to finish. Lauren Carter stood in her Capitol Hill apartment. The rain outside softened to a whisper against the windows. Her laptop screen glowed, a bank portal open, displaying a number that didn't feel real, $15, $731, $422.40. The wire transfer from Apex Capital had landed, marked with a sterile memo, legal comp settlement, Orion equity, vesting. No confetti, no fanfare, just digits that carried the weight of her fight. She stared, her chipped mug risk less. Win more, sitting on the counter, its cracks catching the morning light. The bourbon bottle was gone, replaced by a half-drunk coffee, bitter and perfect. Apex had folded Rachel Kim's lawsuit, armed with the 2017 risk report and Priya Sharma's damning data, had cornered them, the board, spooked by a 5% stock drop and whispers of an SEC probe, met late last night. They'd agreed to the full $15 million and fired Randall Holt, the VP who'd swung the axe without checking the fine print. His termination notice, leaked to a financial blog, cited failure to exercise due diligence, a corporate epitaph. Priya's evidence had sparked an SEC investigation. Apex's cooked books now under a federal microscope. Their empire was cracking, and Lauren had lit the fuse. She walked to Lake Union, the Seattle skyline sharp against a rare break in the clouds. The water lapped at the shore, steady, unyielding, like her resolve. Her phone buzzed a text from Priya, "You're a legend. Drinks soon." Lauren smiled, typing back, "Name the place." Priya's courage had turned the tide, a reminder that no fight was won alone. Her thoughts drifted to Michael Reed, Orion's founder, once her mentor, now a ghost of his former self. She'd visited Orion's old Belltown office yesterday, now a co-working space with exposed brick and overpriced lattes. Michael was there, hunched over a laptop, his suit ill-fitting, his eyes heavy. "I should have fought for you," he said, voice cracking. "I let them erase us." Lauren didn't absolve him, but she nodded, her anger softened by pity. "We're not erased," she said. "Not anymore." She'd left him there, a man lost in his own regret, sitting on a bench by the lake. Lauren let the victory settle. It wasn't joy, not the chest-thumping kind. It was clarity, a quiet reclaiming of the woman she'd been, the one who'd built systems, mentored teams, turned chaos into order. Apex had tried to bury her, but she'd clawed her way out. Not with vengeance, but with precision. The $15 million was a means, not an end, a tool to rebuild, to carve a path that was hers alone. Her gaze fell to her bag, where the photo of her Orion team peeked out. Their smiles, a snapshot of a life she'd loved. The stress ball, shaped like a stock chart, was back in her apartment, retired to a drawer. She didn't need it anymore. Standing, she walked to a nearby dumpster, the photo in hand. It wasn't betrayal to let go, it was freedom. She tossed it in, the frame clattering against metal. A final release. Back home, she sipped her coffee, the bitterness grounding her. The skyline glowed, the Space Needle, a sentinel in the dusk. Lauren wasn't the woman who'd packed her desk in silence, nor the one who'd doubted her worth. She was something new, forged in the fire of Apex's betrayal. They'd underestimated her, and she'd made them pay. Now, the future was hers, not a gift, but a canvas, blank and waiting. Lauren Carter stood on a stage in a Seattle convention center, the hum of the crowd washing over her like a tide. The tech conference buzzed with energy developers in hoodies, VCs in tailored blazers, screens flashing with buzzwords like innovation and disruption. Her navy blazer was sharp, her hair pulled back, but her eyes carried the weight of a war won. She gripped the mic, her voice steady, resonant. "I was told I was obsolete," she began, the word cutting through the chatter. "But here's the thing, they didn't get to write my story." The room leaned in, hooked, as she shared her journey, Orion's fall, Apex's betrayal, the risk report that turned the tables. Her words weren't polished, they were raw, real, a beacon for anyone who'd ever been discarded. Off stage, Priya Sharma grinned, her whistleblower data now fueling an SEC probe that had Apex's stock in free fall. Lauren's $15 million victory was more than money, it was a spark, igniting her next chapter. She'd launched Carter Analytics, a consulting firm mentoring young analysts on ethical finance, teaching them to see risks not just in numbers but in human terms. Her Capitol Hill apartment, once a refuge for bourbon and doubt, was now a hub of late-night strategy sessions. Whiteboards scrawled with ideas, laughter replacing rain. She stepped off the stage to applause. Her chipped mug, risk less, win more, left behind in a drawer, a relic of a life she'd outgrown. Outside, Seattle's dusk painted the sky in gold, the Space Needle glowing like a promise. Lauren's phone buzzed a client email, a speaking invite, a text from Priya. "You slayed it." She smiled, slipping the phone into her pocket. Apex thought they'd erased her, but she'd built something stronger, a legacy not of revenge, but of purpose. Her fight held lessons, carved deep by the fire she'd walked through. First, know your worth. Apex tried to define her as redundant, but Lauren knew her value every model she'd built, every crisis she'd averted. That certainty was her armor. Second, prepare for the storm. The risk report, buried for years, was her lifeline because she'd documented her work, a habit that turned a whisper into a roar. Third, find your allies. Priya's courage, Rachel's ferocity, those bonds turned a solo fight into a movement. Finally, choose resilience over rage. Lauren didn't burn Apex down for spite. She rose above, her victory a quiet power that outshone their lies. She walked toward Lake Union, the water calm, reflecting the city's lights. The future wasn't a finish line, it was a horizon, hers to chase. "Hey, hit that like button," she joked to the conference crowd, "or I'll audit your life's risks." The laugh it drew felt like freedom, a nod to the woman who'd found her voice. Lauren Carter wasn't just back, she was unstoppable, and the world was listening.